G'day. This is a quick video about some improvements to Roo Code that I've just been working on to improve the Ollama provider. So the agenda for the video is the motivation, quick discussion about the new features and the tests, and then I'll do a demo of that. So the motivation is really that I really like the look of Roo Code and the fact that it's open source, and so I'm strongly considering switching to it full time. And I've been trying to use Ollama with it, and I was trying to do it and it was a bit weird. I thought it was a bug, but actually it turns out it was doing the right thing. It just wasn't very clear about what was happening. So really, the provider was filtering the models, so it would query Ollama and say, hey, which models have you got? And then it would filter those by which ones have tools support, which are the only ones that work with Roo Code. And so I was like, why isn't it updating when I've added new models? But it was that the new models that I'd been adding didn't have the tools support. So I was a bit confused. So I sort of tried to address that. So the new features are, I added a button so you can test the base URL to check that you can talk to Ollama, because I was sort of wondering, is it even, talking to Ollama? I added a refresh models button. I think it does that automatically when the page loads, but you can do it explicitly now, and it I'll actually tell you how long it took as well. Same with the test button, it tells you in milliseconds. And then the big change is that I got it to print out a table of the models which do have tools support. So it prints some metadata about, how big the model is and the context. And then it will also list the models that don't have tools support, and just puts them there and has a caveat to say that they aren't supported. Just to avoid that confusion that I had, which was, hey, I thought I added a model, why can't I see it? And now you'll be able to see it. The other thing I was wondering about is, well, what are the connection settings when Roo is making the request to Ollama? Like, will it time out if it's too slow or whatever? It turns out that it uses a library for doing those API calls, and by default it wasn't setting any settings, right? So I've added configuration to allow you to change those settings, and I've set a timeout. Probably controversial, happy to talk about it. Currently it's unlimited, right? Sort of wait forever. But I don't know, I think forever's probably too long, so I set it to an hour. I figure if you've made a request to your local Ollama and it hasn't come back in an hour, it's probably not coming back. But it's tunable. Also added some more tests to the testing framework. I got to say, I was pretty disappointed when I ran all the tests, because there's a very large number of errors. So that's definitely room for improvement. So yeah, that's that. I'll move on to the demo next. Okay, so here I am at my NixOS system, my desktop. And obviously I'm on Nix, so I'm using the Nix flake that I added to Roo Code, or I sent through the MR. It hasn't been approved yet, but hopefully it'll be approved soon. So I type Nix develop to enter the Nix development shell. There I am. I've now got all of the tools that I need. And so what I can do, just to show off the tests, is go into the source directory, and then if we run this test command here, it runs the tests. There are 28 tests there. It covers most of the things. It did find some bugs that I had when I was implementing this, so I did resolve that, and it does test the timeouts that I added. So I don't know, it could be improved more, but it's better than nothing. Okay, and then of course we can build it inside the Nix environment. So this will build the VS Code extension. I think I mentioned in the last video that this is a bit slow and doesn't seem all that efficient. I actually haven't looked to see if this, it's talking here about updating. Maybe there's a newer Nix package around for that. I haven't looked yet. Okay, why is that taking so long? Okay, there it goes, it completed. So it took 52.5 seconds to complete that. And I think now if we look in results, right, it just rebuilt that with the changes. So I can drop out of the shell, and what I'll do is I'll do the same Nix build, which should be cached, and then it will load it into my local VS Code. Okay, so there we go. And now if I do code, right, and let's embiggen a bit. And now we go to Roo Code. We go to the settings up here, this top little button. And now we can see that these are the changes that I made. So here's the test button. We click on that. Yay, it successfully connected and it told us how long it took. You can see here that it's, when this page loads, I think it automatically loads the models. So we can see here that this is the new table that I created. And you can see all the attributes about all the things, right? Context, size, family. I just thought it might be helpful for people, reading the names, looking at the table, maybe it's easier. And then I added that other section, which is the non-tools ones, right? This is where I was confused that I added Code Llama, one of the Code Llamas, and it wasn't coming up in the list. And it's because it doesn't have the tools support. So that's that. And then, so if you press refresh, it found the models and it completed in that time. Under the hood, it actually has to make quite a lot of calls to Ollama there. So I think it gets a list and then it has to call each one to find out about them. And when it does that, that's when it works out if the model supports the tools calling or not. And so there you go. So that's that. And then I did a little tweak to this text too. So I made that into a link. So I think you can click on that now. Yeah, there we go. And this was actually one line. So I made it two. I just thought it looks a bit better. And then these are the connection settings. So I was looking at the Ollama API, and it supports returning the responses streaming, and that's the default. We are using streaming. I think that's the way Roo does it in general. But I just wanted to highlight that it is streaming, and so you can't change it, but it's just there as a sort of a kind of like documentation. Here's the request timeout, right? Set to an hour. Obviously, that's very long. Model discovery timeout, 10 seconds. So that's when you do this, right? That's 10-second timeout. I did add some retry stuff, but I don't retry by default because I guess why would it fail and do you want to retry? I don't know. Maybe there are network conditions where retrying could make sense, but got it for default for none at the moment. And then how quickly would it retry if you had retrying? And I did add a bit more logging details. So if you go into the the developer tools, right, it'll log a bit more stuff there, which I think will help debug it. Because that's where I was surprised that the tool calling versus non-tool calling. Right, so that's really the change, and I'm pleased because now I can select the different models. One thing that's not great, maybe I should improve it, is that the order of these changes when you click. See how it moves around? It's only cosmetic, but it is confusing. So potentially you could get the table to sort by column, right? But then I was thinking, I don't know what column to sort by, so I just left it for now. So yeah, that's the demo, and so I guess we can save that, go back, and so you can see I did a test a few minutes ago to see. So why is the sky blue? And if we look at the GPU now, we'll see here the model should start getting loaded into the GPU memory, and we'll see it just here. Yeah, look, there we go. See, 9.5 gig. I do feel like it would be nice if the web interface or the VS Code interface somehow told you what was happening, because you can't really tell, right? But if you look at the GPU, you can see it. It's doing the thing. It's absolutely getting hammered. There we go, and it responded. So yeah, that's the demo. Hopefully it makes sense. Thanks.